Progressives pitch plan to combat Aipac's dominance. House Judiciary Chair subpoenas FBI Director. Leaked U.S. documents pose very serious security risks. Indian mandatory textbook erases Mughals. COVID-19 may have originated from humans. From our Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Samana Siddiqui. Our top story tonight: an anti-Palestinian lobbying network in the United States is spending millions of dollars to help corporate Democrats beat left-leaning congressional candidates. The American Israel Public Affairs Committee, or AIPAC, launched its super PAC, the United Democracy Project, or UDP, in December 2021. UDP's goal is to legally contribute unlimited amounts of money to directly influence elections and counter mounting opposition to Israeli apartheid within the Democratic Party. Last year, AIPAC boasted its Republican billionaire-funded attack ads helped topple nearly 10 left-leaning Democrats in primary races. The UDP spent more than $2.3 million to support U.S. Representative Summer Lee's corporate-friendly opponent, Mike Doyle, in last May's Democratic primary. It also invested substantial sums to help Doyle in November's midterm. But Lee, the pro-working-class progressive advocate from Pittsburgh, won both contests. Alexandra Rojas and Walid Shahid are executives and organizers at Justice Democrats, a progressive political action committee and caucus. They wrote on Monday in The Nation magazine that progressives don't need to temper their criticism of Israel's occupation or Washington's role in subsidizing it to defeat opponents. They say Congresswoman Lee's recent victory provides a roadmap for how progressive Democrats can elect candidates whose values will be consistent both at home and abroad. U.S. House Judiciary Chair Jim Jordan has subpoenaed FBI Director Christopher Wray. This is in connection with a now withdrawn memo exploring avenues for gaining information on white supremacists' interaction with Catholic churches. The memo was drawn up by the FBI field office in Richmond, Virginia. It discussed meeting with church leaders to review the warning signs of radicalization and to enlist their assistance to serve as suspicious activity tripwires. GOP lawmakers have accused the department of developing an anti-Catholic bias in the wake of last year's Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade. That ruling spurred threats at churches and abortion clinics. The FBI memo detailed growing overlap between white nationalist groups and radical traditionalist Catholics identified as a small minority within the church. Wray is the highest level official to be subpoenaed by the committee under GOP leadership. More than 1,300 scientists and researchers are imploring J.P. Morgan Chase shareholders to phase out financing of new fossil fuel projects. In a letter published on Monday, they asked the board to adopt a resolution that calls for a time-bound phase-out of bankrolling new coal, oil, and gas initiatives. The resolution will be proposed at the bank's annual meeting on May 16th. If adopted, it would encourage J.P. Morgan Chase to stop providing financing, including loans, bonds, and underwriting to companies engaged in fossil fuel expansion. The world's 60 largest private banks pumped $4.6 trillion into coal, oil, and gas projects from 2016 to 2021. Global finance leaders will be gathering in Washington, D.C. this week for the spring meeting of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund. International humanitarian group OXFAM is warning rich countries against artificially inflating their global climate funding commitments. The group estimated low and middle-income nations will need an additional $27.4 trillion at minimum by 2030. They said this is to fill financing gaps in health, education, social protection, and tackling climate change. The funding is also needed to address the damage inflicted by intensifying extreme weather and other consequences of fossil fuel use. Interest rate hikes by the U.S. Federal Reserve and other powerful central banks have compounded the financial struggles of poor nations as debt servicing costs rise. Oxfam criticized green bonds and other such financial innovations that provide minimal benefit relative to what's necessary to help avert climate catastrophe in nations that did the least to cause the crisis. Chinese authorities have sentenced 2 prominent human rights activists to prison for the crime of subversion of state power. On Monday, a court in the Shandong province sentenced Xu Jiyong and Ding Jiaxi to 14 years and 12 years in prison, respectively. Senior China researcher at Human Rights Watch, Yaqi Wang, is calling on international governments to remand their release immediately and unconditionally. Both men have been key spokesmen of fair democracy in China. Xu was one of the founders of the Open Constitution Initiative, an NGO advocating for rule of law and constitutional protection. The Biden administration has extended a national emergency to deal with the unusual and extraordinary threat to national security, foreign policy, and the economy over what it calls Russia's harmful foreign activities. Those include efforts to undermine the conduct of free and fair democratic elections and democratic institutions in the United States and its allies and partners. Biden's executive order extended the measure for a year. Several other activities of Moscow have been deemed harmful. These include engaging in and facilitating malicious cyber-enabled activities against the U.S., its allies, and partners. Democratic members of the Senate Judiciary Committee are promising a hearing looking into the Supreme Court's ethical standards. They are urging Chief Justice John G. Roberts, Jr. to investigate Justice Clarence Thomas. This is for undisclosed acceptance of gifts and luxurious excursions from a wealthy Republican donor. In a letter to the Chief Justice, Senator Dick Durbin, an Illinois Democrat and chairman of the committee, joined 10 other Democratic senators on the panel. They urged the court to act in response to an investigation by ProPublica into Thomas's relationship with Harlan Crow, a Texas real estate billionaire. The committee said it would consider drafting legislation clarifying the court's ethic rules if the court doesn't act on the matter. On Friday, Thomas defended himself for not disclosing he had accepted luxury trips from the mega donor. He said he was advised at the time that he did not have to report it. Leaked U.S. documents pose very serious security risks. Details after the break, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. The recent leak of a trove of apparent classified U.S. documents poses a serious risk to American national security, the Pentagon is warning. The documents were shared on social media, including Twitter and Telegram. They carry U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff SEALs and allegedly belong to the U.S. and NATO. The Pentagon on Friday said it is investigating the unauthorized disclosure of the documents. The Justice Department has separately opened a criminal investigation into the leak. Police are seeking a man who allegedly used a permanent marker to vandalize the Islamic Center of Southern California with hateful comments over the weekend. The incident occurred around 12:40 a.m. on Sunday, according to the Los Angeles Police Department. The man is accused of writing anti-Islamic hate words on the property and then running from the area. LAPD Chief Michelle Moore says the suspect may be homeless and is believed to be still in the area. The writing on 3 pillars was covered up with paper Monday morning and eventually will be painted over. Omar Ritchie, mosque spokesman, said the vandalism is an act of hate that has caused pain in the community. He said it's an attack on our city as a whole. One of 2 Black Democrats expelled from the Tennessee House of Representatives last week has been sworn back to his seat. Congresspersons Justin Jones and Justin Pearson were expelled for leading a gun control protest on the House floor. This was in the wake of a school shooting in Nashville on March 27th that killed 9 people, including 3 children at an elementary school. Within an hour of the Metropolitan Nashville Council unanimously voting to temporarily appoint Jones back to the seat, he returned to take his place in the legislature. This was in the same body that overwhelmingly voted to expel him less than a week before. The move was seen as a swift rebuke to the Republican supermajority over its decision to expel him and Congressman Pearson. A Chinese scientist claims this COVID-19 virus may have originated from humans. China's State Council's Information Office held a press conference in Beijing on Saturday to discuss the latest findings in the tracing of the virus's origins. Scientists claim the DNA data shared in Nature, an international scientific journal, showed strains found in samples from the Huanan seafood market in Wuhan. The first cases of COVID-19 were reported in Wuhan in December 2019. Researchers analyzed more than 1,300 DNA samples collected from animals and the environment in the market. There was no coronavirus in any of the 457 animal samples examined. That discovery invalidates the possibility of transmission from animals. A new mandatory history textbook taught to millions of India's children erases 300 years of Muslim Mughal rule. The Taj Mahal is one of the wonders of the world. Award-winning Indian journalist Swati Chaturvedi said according to the new textbooks issued by the government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the emperor who commissioned it never existed. Chaturvedi says the Mughals ruled India for 300 years, but now they have disappeared from the curriculum. This is because their period of Muslim rule makes far-right Hindu nationalists in power uncomfortable. The revised textbooks have also purged the fact that Gandhi's killer was a Hindu extremist. Writing in Haaretz, Chaturvedi says that the attempt to rewrite history has been met with dismally muted resistance from India's weak opposition leaders and a caged free press. Before we end today's news, I'd like to make a special request. It takes our team a combined 55 hours of work daily to produce this news for you. It is news with a unique perspective, and you will find it only here. Sound Vision Foundation is a not-for-profit organization which produces it. And just like PBS and NPR, it depends on your donations. Please visit muslimnetwork.tv to donate now, or click the link below to donate. Thank you. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Salam and good night.